maybe good morning, depending where you're at in the country, in the world. Thank you for joining me on this YouTube live. For those that are on the email list, as I shared there, it's been a hot minute since I've done a YouTube live. So this is exciting. I've got a lot going on, a lot of screens, a lot of tabs, a lot of windows, but I'm so grateful that you are here in the chat. Love to know where you're from, where you're tuning in from. I see I got somebody from Belize, that's Clifton. Good afternoon, Warren. Glad that you're here. Yeah, go ahead and let me know in the chat where you're tuning in from. Love to hear where you are, and thank you for joining me for this YouTube live. And as hopefully you know by now, the title of this presentation is talking about good afternoon, Warren. Glad that how to make more in the next 90 days where you're tuning in from than you did last year. Where you are, and thank you for joining awesome. Me we got Boston in the house. YouTube live. Andrew Rogers in the house. What up? Hopefully you know we got Don. Don, I remember that name. Don Rourke from Ohio. Ernest from California. Ishi from Austin. Dude, this is awesome. 90 days. Arizona. Than you did last year. Philly here. That's great. Awesome. We got yeah. So make more in the next 90 days than you did in the last year. Excited to talk about this because this is something that I have. If you are a subscriber to the channel, you're going to hear me say this a lot. If you haven't already in current videos, upcoming videos. But what I'm going to share with you is something that I have been working on for a few years. I got somebody in Colombia in the house. What's up? That is just south of me. Just that those are curious. San Diego. Some good weather there. Air Force vet from Indy. If you haven't already, another one from Philly. Current videos, upcoming videos. But yeah, so as I was saying, this is something that I've been working on for several years now, and had some personal hardships, had some hardships, some personal stuff with losing some loved ones over the past couple of years that really kind of put a hold on this. So I'm excited to share, what I'll be talking about today. This is something that is there an echo? I don't know. Anybody else got an echo? Let me know in the comments if you're hearing an echo. Had some hardships. I got a few different mic choices, so there is an echo. Past couple of years that really kind of put a hold on this. So all right. I'm excited to share, what I'll be talking about today. This is something that is there an echo? I don't know. Oh, I know what that is. Let me know in the comments. I know exactly what that is. I got a few different mic choices, so there is an echo. All right. I think that will take care of the echo. Had to close out another tab, so we will come back to that. So as I was sharing, this is something that I'm excited about, pumped about. Glad that you're here. So let's just go ahead and dive into it. And this journey begins. So for those that don't know, I currently have 4 children. What you're seeing here are my 2 oldest sons. So at this point in my life, I was a successful financial advisor. I had co-founded my own investment firm. I was, for all intents and purposes, I was successful. We had the big house, we had the nice cars. On the outside, everything seemed like it was okay. And for the most part, it was. But underneath what was going on was, as I mentioned, I was making good income. For me to be making $250,000 and not feeling happy. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, you got first world problems. And the truth is that this was happening before I hit 250. This is something that was happening before I even had success. But it just had reached this point in my life where I'm making good money, and yet I wasn't excited about what I was doing. So yay, I'm making a bunch of money, but boo, I wasn't excited about what I had to do each and every day. I literally rolled out of bed at the very last minute each and every day. I can remember my wife was my alarm clock. So anytime I would hear her in the shower, that was my cue, oh, it's time to get up. And for those that aren't familiar with this, if that's how you're waking up your day, if you're not waking up excited, ready to conquer the world, then there's something else going on. I just didn't see it at the time. We took that typical 1-week family vacation, usually going to the beach of some kind. But I hardly took off any other days of the week unless it was an emergency. And each day just didn't feel like I had a purpose. Didn't just feel like I was going through the motions, felt like I was drifting. Even though like I was a entrepreneur business owner, I very much felt like I was punching the clock in and out. And like many people, I did set my New Year's resolutions. And like many people, I think there's a stat that I did a video on recently talking about how 91% of people fail in their goals. Only 9% complete their family or their New Year's resolutions. Like that was me. I was really excited about the process, but by the second, third week in January, I already forgotten what I was doing, what I was excited about. And through this process, what I ended up learning was like I was doing the things that other people thought I should do to be successful. Like at the end of the day, that's what I was doing. And I didn't realize it. It didn't feel like it because I felt like I was in charge. Like once again, had my own business. I set my own schedule. But at the end of the day, I was doing the things that I felt were needed to be successful, not the things I desired or wanted to do. But it felt like they were the things that I should do. And I don't know if you could relate to that either maybe previously in your life or where you're at right now, but just feel like you're just doing the things that you need to do just to get by, just to provide, just to exist each and every day. Now, even though like there were some struggles that were going on, I mean, when I took a step back and looked at it, like I was doing a lot of things right. I was setting my annual goals. I was doing my New Year's resolutions. And actually there's a screenshot of a blog post, and I typically would do every year for, I think it was like 3 or 4 years, I would always do my New Year's resolutions and I would publish it. And so everybody could see all of these fun, crazy goals that I had. But the funny thing in that process was I didn't even look at that blog post until the next December when it was time to write the next one. And then I'm looking at this thinking, oh, those are the things I wanted to do this year. Like I totally forgot. So I set annual goals. I did, for the most part, surround myself with high achievers. There were successful people that I surrounded myself around, but not to the point where I was sharing everything that I was going through. And I did all the right things as far as like self-education, self-improvement. I was listening to all the right podcasts. I was reading all the right books. I've got my top 10 books over my left, maybe your right shoulder. And I was always wanting to work on myself, reading self-help books, self-improvement. Anytime when I used to work at the broker's office I started with, I had a mentor that hired me, and I was always going to him when I just felt like I needed somebody to talk to. So I felt like I was doing all the right things, but something just still felt off. And what I recognized, what I was missing during that whole process was confidence. I was missing clarity. I was missing excitement. I was missing a true community of people that understood what I was going through. And it's so weird to say this because on the surface back then, like I felt confident. Like I was a certified financial planner. Like I had a co-founded an investment firm. Like I'd done all these right things. And at that time, living in a small town and being featured on all these big media sites like Forbes and Business Insider and so on and so forth, like I felt like I had accomplished so much. I mean, so much more than any of like my parents did or a lot of my even peers did. But yet underneath, like I just didn't feel confident. And part of that was because I didn't really have clarity in not what my goals were, but clarity in what I truly wanted out of my life. Like I kind of thought I did, but looking back, I really didn't spend a lot of time doing that sort of deep dive to truly understand what I wanted, what I needed, and what my definition of success was. Once again, I was using other people's definition of success to define my own. And that's why ultimately I just wasn't content, wasn't happy. So that began this journey. And I'll share more of that here in a minute, but basically going through a few different coaching programs, going through a high ticket mastermind group. And this is over the process. Well, what I'm getting ready to share with you right now was over the process of about 2 to 3 years, but ultimately that entire process was about 5 to 6 years. So the after of going through all this was the following. In less than 3 years, my gross income almost tripled, almost to $700,000, which was mind blowing. I was making that much more. I was making that much more money, which was awesome. But I was also excited about what I was doing. I will tell you, like, it doesn't matter how much money you're making, if you hate what you do, it's hard to get excited. It's hard when that alarm clock goes off not to hit snooze 17 times. But after going through this bit of a transformation, like, I was excited to start each day. I then began, instead of using my wife as an alarm clock, I started setting my alarm and started getting up between 5 and 6 a.m. There were even times I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, which is crazy. I know Mark Wahlberg, he's got his 4 a.m. workout. Like, I'm not that crazy. Wasn't that intense, but it was basically, I read a book called The Miracle Morning, and that helped me redefine what my morning routine was. But like, it wasn't rolling out of bed. Like, it was, I won't say I was like doing a jumping jack out of bed, but I was more excited than I'd ever been to get out of bed. And also that process ended up, as I mentioned earlier, I co-founded my own investment firm, ended up founding my own wealth management firm, and also wrote my first book, Soldier of Finance, which seems like ages ago, but it was always a goal of mine. And for those that don't know, being a published author, whenever I was a senior in high school and my English teacher telling me that I was not that great of a writer is truly an accomplishment, especially being where I was at in this state of my life where before I didn't have that clarity, I didn't have that excitement, I didn't have that confidence. I ended up launching, which is where you're at, like here you are right now, the YouTube channel, the podcast, and the picture, which this will go down as one of our most favorite family pictures. It is sad because we didn't have our daughter yet, but this was us taking a 2-week RV trip to the Grand Canyon. And this is actually, I think this is in Gunnison, Colorado, with the $1 Million Highway. But what was so epic about that trip was, like, that was a 2-week vacation, when prior to that, it was a big deal for me to take off like a Wednesday during the middle of the week. So this was a huge, huge transformation to be able to do all of this. And I mentioned, like, this didn't happen overnight. I don't know if you've ever worked with a mentor or a coach, maybe a counselor. I know for me, I could be stubborn just a little bit. I could be stubborn. So when I started this coaching program, they would give you guidance on things that you could try, and really things you should try. And I fought it for for so long because I was so set in my ways, the way, the things, because up to that point, everything that I did had led to what I viewed as success. I did this, I got this. I did this, I got this. So now you're telling me to do it different, a little bit different. That was really, really hard to accept. And also, if I'm being honest, like, I'm stubborn. Like, I didn't want to do it. So it took an act of God to finally start to adapt and adopt some of these principles and fundamentals, which end up being habits, daily habits, quarterly habits, just things that I wasn't comfortable doing at first. But then essentially what ended up happening was it being a rewiring of my brain. And I fought it. And it's so funny because, like, in this program that I was in, it was a group of anywhere between like 25 to 40 business owner, entrepreneur types, male and female, from all across the country, actually all across the world. And so we'd be in this group, and you would see, like, there was some that would just fight, kind of like me. I just didn't verbally fight it. I was more of like an internal thing, but I would see there were some people that would kind of push back on some of the things that they were suggesting, and really just having this almost like a negative mindset, like, oh, that doesn't work. That might work for them, but that ain't going to work for me. And keeping in mind, I don't know the exact number, but there were, I believe, tens of thousands of successful entrepreneurs that had come through this program. and had grown both personally and professionally. So it wasn't like they were just trying to creating this on the go, on the fly. Like there was a proven track record that they had. So anyway, but like still internally, like I fought it. And then slowly but surely, I started to adopt some of the things that they suggested. And that's when we saw that transformation of, oh, so that's how that works. And the more that I allowed like my old self basically to die to a new way of doing things, that's when things just started to unfold and started to see things in a different light. And that's one of the things I have truly appreciated about this journey, my own journey, and seeing other successful people. Like you start off and you really just have the knowledge that you have is based on your own personal experience. And sure, you can talk to other people and you might hear what they have to say, but until you truly experience yourself, like you just don't know how it works. You just don't know what it feels like, what it tastes like, what it smells like. And so often, and this is a perfect example of, I could have just continued to do it my way. And I would have been, for the most part, just fine, as far as like my business would have been just fine and my family would have been just fine. But underneath inside here, like I wouldn't have been just fine. But the only way for me to do that was to be bold. I didn't see it as being bold back then, but looking back now, like it was scary. Like it was scary to try to give up everything that I knew of what led to my success and let somebody else guide me. And it was scary. But what I've also learned through this entire process, as anytime you put yourself in situations that are scary, that require you to grow, that require you to do something that is outside your comfort zone, like typically at the end of that, at the other side of that is when you see exponential growth. And I can see that time and time again. Does that mean that each new opportunity isn't scary? Absolutely not. Like I've had some recent business transitions where it's been scary. It was like almost as scary as starting my own wealth management firm, like going back. But thankfully I have that experience where I can rely on that, but it requires you to take that big, huge step forward to reveal like whatever the next thing is. So through this rewiring process, going through this coaching program, there were 3 big takeaways. And I just want to spend some time talking about what these are. So I want you to hear this so that you might be able to apply this in your own life. So the 3 big takeaways. Let me get out of the way there. Stopped measuring forward. And this was one. So there's this concept and it's called the gap. And essentially what most of us do, pretty much all of us do, is that we have our expectations of what we hope that we can accomplish. So when you think about when you set your goals, sometimes you'll set crazy goals like, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds this week. Anybody have that goal before? I probably have. I want to lose 10 pounds this week. And then so you begin working out, you start eating clean. Maybe you do Whole30 or keto or some crazy intermittent fasting. Maybe you do the Phil Mickelson diet. You fast for like 6 days and you lose 7 pounds, which is amazing. Probably a little bit unhealthy, but amazing. But your goal was 10. So you chalk up like, oh, that was a failure. And that is measuring forward as opposed to measuring backwards, meaning that our goal was 10, we lost 7, there is progress. There is progress. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we set a goal that was unrealistic, that was almost unachievable. And oftentimes we set goals that are the equivalent of chasing that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Things that we think that are possible, we think that we want. Sometimes we're just making up goals because that's what other people are determining for us, what we need to succeed, which I mentioned earlier. Stopped measuring forward and started measuring backwards. And that began this whole process. One of the things that I never did was celebrate any of the successes or wins that I had accomplished. I was always about what's next. What's the next thing? And it's almost like I remember when my book was published. I can remember the first time I was featured on, like, getting my first Forbes article published, being featured in major media. Like, it was always, oh, that's awesome, great. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? Instead of being intentional with celebrating those successes, celebrating what those wins were, whether that was looking back on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, or even an annual basis. I just didn't do that. I just kept measuring forward. I kept measuring on what are the things that I still haven't done yet. And I tell you, like, that is just a recipe for disaster. But that's why I was so unfulfilled, because I just kept adding more, kept adding more, kept adding more. So that was big takeaway number one. Second takeaway was identifying what my kryptonite was. So a little bit of background. Both my parents divorced when I was young. So a lot of the ways that I found a way to win, I always said, I might not be the smartest. I didn't say this exactly, but I remember thinking, like, I'm not the smartest person, but there is nobody that will outwork me. Like, that was always what kind of like the inner child, inner person was always saying. So that's why I had, started working when I was 15, always had multiple jobs up until college. And I continued just to work. And that will get you far, and you'll have success with that. But eventually, like, you'll hit a breaking point. And for me, not only was it identifying my kryptonite, which basically meant identifying what were the things that made me feel like Superman. Like, what were the things, like when I mentioned about being excited and getting out of bed, like, what were those things? Because it was the kryptonite that wanted me to stay in bed. It was the kryptonite that didn't want me to put on my cape and fly out of my bed and take charge of the day. So that began this process. And there's a few different tools out there. One of the things I ended up learning was called the Kolbe Index, which is basically just a personality test. And it helped me see how I'm wired. Essentially, the Kolbe says, and for those that want to look it up online, it's Kolbe, the Kolbe Index. And it, once again, it shows how you're wired, like who you are as a person. And everybody's different. We're all hardwired differently. And it showed me that instead of trying to work harder on the things that don't give me life, don't give me purpose, it showed me how to identify what are the things that I actually enjoy doing, that I actually give me life, and most importantly, also pay the bills. And Dan Sullivan, who is the founder of the coaching program that I was in, he referred to this as your unique ability. And your unique ability is that superhuman power that once you get done doing it, you have more energy. Like if you have something that you just love doing, you, for the most part, should not feel exhausted when you're done. Like if you are a public speaker and you love getting on stage, or if you love planning parties, if you're that type of person, that's not me, by the way, but if you love planning parties, once it's done, like, you should feel, oh, that was so good, I want to do that again. As opposed to feeling like you've been exposed to kryptonite, you just want to crawl into your bed and die. So that was, and this was probably part of the process that took me the longest, and the part of the process that I was very resilient on, because once again, I had all the things I knew, one led to my success. And also, I'm a control freak. I did not want to give up control. I had built this thing, from my point of view, to my own accord, but truth was I had help, higher power, all that good stuff. But I was a control freak, and I did not want to give that up. So starting to let go of certain things, which end up just basically being certain tasks that I was doing, whether it was my financial planning practice or with the online business, that I just had to start to let go of. And I had to start relying on other people to help. And I don't know if you struggle with this, asking for help. I probably wouldn't have said that I struggled asking for help. The truth was, like, I was too prideful to ask for help, because it became no, I'm going to figure it out my way. And that's not a horrible strategy, but if you're willing to ask for help and you can get something figured out in 2 minutes versus taking it 48 hours, I promise you that's going to help. It's going to help with your confidence. It's going to help with your mood. So for me, identifying my kryptonite, that was me no longer scheduling client meetings. That was me no longer editing blog posts. That was me no longer editing videos. Like, I actually used to do all this stuff. I used to type out like my own blog posts instead of using transcription services and using editors, hiring different team members, partnering with other people that knew more about the online business than I did. So these were things that were super hard. But when I identified what the kryptonite was, that get that stuff away from me so I can, once again, put on my cape and do what I do best that helps me thrive, that's when we saw the revenue increase. That's when we saw me taking more time off. And essentially, like, that's one of the reasons why I'm here today. So the third thing, oh gosh, that is a big, look at those teeth. The 90-day goal system. It was hard to narrow this down to 3 big takeaways, but stop measuring forward, looking at my kryptonite, and then also looking at the New Year resolution. Doing New Year's resolutions is not a bad thing. Like, that's actually a very healthy exercise. Like, if you are taking the time to create these 1-year goals, things that you want to accomplish over the next 365 days, like, that's not a bad thing. Like, you're working on self-improvement. But what I learned through my own process was, once I did those goals, New Year's resolutions, like, I didn't look at them again. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they didn't, doing 1-year goals, it was almost as if, imagine if you were trying to read a book, but every single chapter was about a different character. Like, you go from chapter to chapter to chapter, and it just doesn't make sense. And that's ultimately what my 1-year goals were doing. Like, the 1-year goal here didn't really connect to the book of Jeff Rose on what I wanted to succeed, what I wanted to achieve from my life. It was like I was just creating these goals for the sake of creating goals, just say, oh, I've got New Year's resolutions. And I would just do this process every year, but never was fulfilled. So essentially what this 90-day goal method was creating not only 1-year goals, but we actually created lifetime goals. We then would look at 3-year goals. We would then have our 1-year goals, and something that I had never did before were creating 90-day or quarterly goals. And that was, it might sound so silly, but it was so powerful, because what happens is that when you create 90-day goals with the intention that in 90 days from now, you're going to look at and review what those 90-day goals were, and you're looking and reviewing those and see how they connect with your 1-year goals, with your 3-year goals, and your lifetime goals, you start having accountability, but not accountability from an accountability coach. You are your own accountability partner, and you get to see what you're working on. And that 90-day time frame, for some people, it seems like, oh, that might be too long. But the truth is, like, it happens really, really quick. And there was a few times where I would do these 90-day goals. This was me at the beginning. I would set these 90-day goals initially that I thought I could pull them off in less than 3 months. But the truth was, like, they were more like 1-year goals, because what I identified as I went through that process was, like, I didn't have the infrastructure. I didn't have the team to actually pull it off without going crazy. So looking at these 90-day goals, after going through them a few times, it helped me to see the progress, and also helped me really look at the calendar and be realistic of what I could accomplish and be totally content with. You know, being more realistic instead of measuring forward. I was able to, like, look at those goals and how they align with everything else. And that's what doing that again and again and again led to the growth that I've experienced since then. And underneath that is what I've now called the rap method. And no, I'm not going to bust out any rap right now. I'm not going to bust out any Wu-Tang or Dr. Dre right now. The rap method, essentially, this was the same process that I did with my financial planning clients. And RAP stands for Results in Advanced Planning. Results in Advanced Planning. So basically identifying, pretty simple, where do you want to go? What do you want to achieve? What do you need to accomplish where you feel that you are a success? And be very clear with that. And that might take some time to finally be able to articulate what that is to you and to other people. And the first time you do it, it's going to be okay. Actually, mine might be that great. Like, mine wasn't that great. But once you can identify what that is, you identify what the result is, and now we just reverse engineer and identify what are the things that we need to do this week, this month, over the next 90 days, over the next year, 3 year, 1 year, 3 year, and then lifetime, where you can finally achieve what those goals are, what those desired results are. That is the Results in Advanced Planning method. And it's so, it seems like, sometimes I'm like, is that it? Is that really it? But the truth is, like, yeah, it's like that's it. But the one thing that if I've not said this, I definitely don't want to shy away from this, but, like, this requires work. This requires you being intentional with your time, carving off a day or two every 90 days and reviewing everything. And oftentimes people just don't have the willingness, the determination, or they'll say they're too busy, say they're too tired, say they just don't have enough time. Those are all excuses. Like, we all have time, if we're willing to put it on our calendar. Like, I told myself I didn't have time to take off, like, during the week or going on a trip. Like, I had time. I just wasn't committed to the process. I wasn't committed. I didn't know how to commit. But that is the Results in Advanced Planning method, the RAP method. And just, once again, starting off, setting these 90-day goals, reviewing the 90-day goals, and doing this again and again and again, what ended up happening was I started seeing growth. I started seeing change. It was almost like, in some cases, it felt almost like an out-of-body experience. Meaning that, how am I on this RV trip? Like, how am I taking time out of the office? Like, this used to seem like it was impossible. Like, there was no way that I could ever do this. And then all of a sudden it's happening, and it's happened, and it's happened, and it keeps happening. And it's just one of those things. It's just trusting the process. It's going through it again and again and again. And when I thought I was at a point in my life where I really couldn't grow anymore, then all of a sudden, like I am growing. And just to be clear, not growing just in revenue, but growing in like confidence in myself, confidence in the business, confidence in relationships with my family, relationships with my friends, confidence as a husband, confidence as a father, confidence as a business owner. It was spreading across all facets of my life, all because I was doing this system, doing this process time and time again. And what I've wanted to do for a couple years now, as I mentioned, several years now, is I learned so much through this. Like when I think about the things that have had such an impact on my life, it was this process. And when I did this, like when I first signed up for my very first year in this coaching program, it was like, I think it was like $7,500 or $8,000. And then by the time I got out of it, it was between 9 and 10. And then after that, I did a high level mastermind program, and that was $25K for the entire year. So that was a lot of money. But it was not an expense. It was an investment. And it was an investment that I don't know if I'll ever be able to track the ROI. But one of the reasons why I started the Wealth Hacker channel when I did was the person that I'm speaking to is that either younger version or any inexperienced version of myself that wants something different, that believes that there's something different out there, that there's a different path than what is laid out in front of you. And you don't know exactly what that is right now. You just know that what you're doing right now feels like it's kind of working, but you're also curious if there's something else. And that has where I've been probably since I was 19, 20 years old, always believing that there was something else out there, but I just didn't know how to get there. I didn't know what those right steps were. So that's when I began experimenting in different business ideas, experiencing with MLM and different marketing tactics. And I mean, the list goes on and on, all the things I've tried. But my heart has always gone out to those individuals that want something different. They just don't know what that is yet. But also recognizing that when I was young and starting out, like I didn't have $7,500. I didn't have $9,000. I didn't have 10 grand to get started in a program like that. Like that would, even when I did it, like I was making $250,000 a year, and that was a huge expense. Like it was, like I couldn't even wrap my head initially around investing that amount. So glad that I did. So glad that I did. So ultimately what that led to me wanting to create a system, trying to replicate what I learned in this coaching program over that 5 to 6 year period and present it in a way that was affordable for somebody that, as I said, desired something else. They're just not really sure what that was. And that's why I finally get to reveal, which this has probably been shared on the channel before. I just haven't really marketed it. I haven't really talked about it that much. It's the 10X Goals Accelerator Program. And essentially it is my course, my training program that goes through everything that I just discussed today and talking about the RAP method and the 3-year roadmap and my Crush Your Day template and all the things that I have done and that I continue to do that allow me to have that growth and feel like each day is a purpose. And I'm excited because I've had a few people go through this program, and the ones I have, like talking to them, like, man, I just get so excited. I get so excited when I start seeing that light bulb going off, you know, where all of a sudden it's just like almost like that kid, like that young child that has that curiosity, you know, like, oh, that's how that works. Seeing that is like, man, it's like, cause like, I just remember when I was there, it's almost like when you finally figured out Santa Claus isn't real and you're like, what? Are you serious? Are you crazy? That's what this program felt like. And I'm starting to see that with some of the students that are going in. But if you want to learn more about it, you can go to join10xgoals.com. There's more information there, has all the 2 different options, which I'll talk about here in 1 second. I'm not going to do a hard sell on this. I just want to put it out there for you to take a look at, and you decide if this is a good fit for you and where you're at right now in your life. So this was a recent picture. This was in, I want to say Gatlinburg, but it was Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. We got an Airbnb. This is on spring break. And I wanted to share this picture because for me to sit here and tell you that, like, I have the perfect family. Like, I have a great family. I love my family. We are not perfect by any stretch. Like, we have our challenges. Like, yes, I do enjoy getting out of bed. I do love to attack my day. Are there days where my kids are struggling, or maybe I'm struggling a little bit, where it takes a minute to put my Superman cape on to get my day going? 100%. I don't want to sit here and tell you a fairy tale that every day is amazing. Like the Lego movie, every day is awesome. Like, every day isn't awesome. But it's just this reminder of that's where we are today. And one of the many blessings that I do not take for granted is my daughter there and my youngest son on the left. You know, I get to take them to school every day. I get to pick them up from school every day. And that is truly a blessing that I enjoy. And it's something that I wouldn't have had I not listened to this coaching program, had I not adopted the things that they shared and just started to do them against everything that said to don't do it. So anyway, I just wanted to share this because it's a work in process. You know, it's always fine-tuning the process, growing, focusing on growth, being okay and being scared to try new things, but having that courage to be bold to try new things. Like, I'm still trying new things. Like, right now I'm really enthralled with AI and everything that's going on there. Like, it's been awesome. Like, learning everything that's going on and how I can apply that to my business. I mean, that is the world that we're in. So if you're not willing to grow, not willing to be comfortable, then I guess I get asked, like, what you are comfortable with. It's not a fun place to be. So we've got 2 different options for you. I'm going to get out of the way so you can see them. So we got the DIY starter plan. So essentially, this is the do-it-yourself. You got access to all the video modules, all the downloadables. You got it all. Got the bonuses in there. It's $197. You have lifetime access to all the content. If you don't like it, if you think it is a complete waste of time, you've got a 30-day, no question, money back guarantee, 100% guaranteed. This is something that I am, this is it. Like, right. This is like the next chapter of my life of wanting to give back, wanting to help people get unstuck from the rut that they're in. So DIY, do it yourself, $197. If you want more of a community aspect, there is a $497 option. With that, there will be either a Discord or private Facebook group, still determining how that's going to look out. I've got people from the beta class that were in there a couple of years ago. So you'll have some people that already gone through some of the material in there for you or with you, just to kind of help be mentorship, hopefully for you. There will be some live calls where you'll have access to me, to ask any questions, where you're at with the material. A lot of the common questions I typically get is a lot about goals and how to identify if this is a good goal or not, if this is the right goal. Can't really answer those questions, but I can help ask you the right questions to help you determine if that is a good fit. But you can check out the 2 different options there at join10xgoals.com, and that should forward you to the landing page that you can check that out. So there I am. That was my very first office. I did not pick out the wallpaper. That was the wallpaper that was in the office whenever I moved in. You can't really see how ginormous that computer monitor is, but it was massive. And I wanted to share this picture because what you see here is, yes, that's a big smile, and I'm happy, I'm excited. I don't know what that thing is on my ear, but what you have here is somebody that knew that there was something bigger out there, and he was willing to do the work, and he was willing to try new things. But man, had he had this coaching program back then, whew, dear Lord, you talk about that would have been a whole lot faster. That would have been a whole lot less more headaches than what I've experienced. But that's what that's who this program is for. Somebody that is wanting more, wanting change, wanting different insight, different perspective. Hey, easier to identify what makes sense. Like, what are the things to do? What are the right steps? So often, like, we don't know what to do, so we just don't do anything, or we keep doing the same thing we have been doing, which is basically insanity. But I wanted to create something for you if you are in that situation where you want something and you're curious, and if you think that there's something out there, I promise you that there is. So I think this is the last slide. And just as this reminder, I love this quote, or some version of it. You're not defined by your past. I saw another quote that was very similar to this, like your past is not a prison cell. I would so often allow, after this stage of confidence, when things weren't working out the way that I had envisioned, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, like I started to feel like a failure. I started to feel like no matter what I do, it's not going to work. And I just needed that reminder that my past is not how I am defined. I'm defined by what I do today, what I do tomorrow, what I do going forward. And this is, it's a place, an easy place to fall back into. And there was a time going through losing a few loved ones and going through a grieving process. I found myself in a dark place going back to this. All of a sudden, all the things, all the times that didn't work out, all of a sudden were becoming the things, all the intrusive thoughts that were coming in. And just remembering, like, gosh, like that's not who I am. Yeah, those things happened, but that doesn't define what I do today or what I do next day. And that's the beauty of this program, is like when you look at and start reviewing your 90-day goals, when you start looking at the progress of the things you actually did achieve in that process, and start celebrating those wins, like you start getting very excited, and you start getting re-energized. You start seeing, oh, wow, okay, yeah, I didn't lose that 10 pounds, but I lost 7. Like, that's awesome. What if I lose another 7 next week? Like, that's great, phenomenal. And that has been what this journey has led me, and ultimately has allowed me to enjoy the process. All right, I'm going to see real quick. I know that there was an echo going on earlier. I think that was because I had my other YouTube screen open. So there may be an echo again, but I'm going to go ahead and pull it back up. And just to see if I've got any comments, any questions, what's going on. Screen open. So love this question here. This is from I don't know, AGR8 Full Life. How do you suggest actually making more in 90 days? Please be clear. Thank you for that question. It's a great question. So when I look at, imagine what you're doing right now and what you're planning on doing over the next 90 days. What is your plan? Like, what are your 90-day goals? What are you doing this week? What are you doing next month? What are you doing 2 months from now? How does that tie into what you're doing for the next year? How does that tie in what you're doing for the next 3 years? when you don't have a plan, when you're not intentional with the things that you need to do, when you're not able to identify what those things are and what are the potential roadblocks that will come up that prevent you from taking action or derail you because you haven't done the work to be ready for that. But when you start with intentionality, when you start with knowing exactly the things that you need to do, how do you not make more money in the next 90 days? When you are more intentional with your tasks? Because if you find yourself numbing out, watching YouTube videos, watching Netflix or whatever streaming service that you're on right now, or on your phone or whatever you're doing, that's easy to do. So easy to do whenever you get stressed, whenever you get bored, whenever you feel overwhelmed. And typically all those type feelings, all that overwhelm happens when you don't have a clear vision on what you're trying to accomplish. I can speak from experience. Like that's when I would mostly get overwhelmed because I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I was just trying to do it all. But when I finally had a clear plan of attack, when I had clear, concise goals and timelines of what I was going to do, when I was going to do it, how I was going to do it, and also account for any potential roadblocks that could come up that would prevent me from getting these things done. Like I was ready for it. I was ready for it. So starting to be intentional with my time. So when that happens, I don't need to numb out on YouTube or Netflix or whatever it is, because I've got stuff to do. I've got things to do because I'm clear and laser focused. That's how. Any mastermind group options? What I have learned in my own experience with mastermind groups, you could do a search for mastermind groups. You'll find it, I'm sure several searching. What I've kind of see has been like the trend lately. It was kind of like the experience with me was not the coaching program, but I said the high ticket mastermind group. Actually, it was with a guy named Michael Hyatt who lives here in Franklin, Tennessee. And Michael was somebody that I looked up to. He was a mentor of mine, even though we had never met prior to that, but he was a mentor because I read his books and I read his blog posts and I listened to his podcast. And he seemed as if that is somebody that he is a few steps ahead of me as far as in his business and with his family life. And I want that. Like there's a piece of him. Like I would like to have that with my family. So he just happened to have that time where he had a mastermind group that was open. It was a whole application process, applied, thankfully got accepted. But that's how I found him. So typically what I see with mastermind groups is looking to somebody that you admire, that you look up to. And that could be someone local. It could be an author, could be content creator. But like I know, trying to think of some examples here, but like Don Miller is another successful marketing guy. Actually, there's a Don and Dan Miller, both from the Nashville area, and they both have their mastermind groups. And people typically, I won't say flock to them, but they gravitate towards them because there's something with their message that they resonate with. So typically that's where I tell people to start, is somebody that you look up to, somebody that is a few steps ahead of you, that you would like to see that in your life. If that is not the option, then the other option is you start your own mastermind group. And I've done both. I've done the paid version where I've hired somebody, paid somebody that has a little bit more success than me. And then I've also been a part of mastermind groups where it's other peers that were all in similar areas of life and we're helping each other grow, helping each other be accountable. And I've been in several of those over the last 10 years. So there's a few different options there. Matthew L., I bet it's expensive. For you and where you're at, it might be. And I would say to that, then maybe this isn't a good fit for you. As I mentioned, when I invested almost $75,000 into the coaching program for 5 years and the mastermind group that I was a part of. Like, that was a lot of money for me, and it was worth it. But I look at coaching programs, courses, I think they were a great investment. And of course, I'm going to say that because I'm selling a course, right? But it's not a good investment if you don't think it's a good fit. It's not a good investment if you buy the course and you don't do anything with it. Like, if that is the case, then I appreciate you being a subscriber to the channel. I appreciate you watching, appreciate your support, but it's not a good fit. That doesn't mean you can't benefit from the content that I'll be sharing for free on the channel going forward. Listen to the podcast or blog posts. Like, I love for you to digest all of that. And if you can take some of that and apply it to your own life and see growth, amazing, awesome. But if you're looking for something different, if you're looking for a way to invest in yourself and change how you have been wired based off your own personal experience, then this could be a good fit. And worst case scenario, you got 30 days to try it out. If you don't like it, money back guarantee. I don't want to take anybody's money that doesn't get anything out of this. This is a bigger deal for me than just taking money. This is something where I want to see people grow. Like, for me, my definition of success in this program is not how many courses I sell. It's how I see people succeed going through what I've presented here. Like, that's how I'm going to measure success. And I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm excited to see people go through this. Lisa Johnson, I am 60 years old. Is this still for me? Lisa, that's a great question. When I was in my coaching program, I was not the youngest, but I was one of the younger people that were in there. And what I was really amazed and impressed to see is, there were people that were in their mid 50s, there were people in their 60s. And it was just this reminder that you're never too old to grow. And a lot of their focus was, what is their legacy? Like, what are they wanting to pass on to their kids and their kids' kids? And many of them, they just wanted to grow. Like, they wanted to feel like they've been working their entire lives and they still hadn't found what that deep purpose was. And so that's it. Could be. Just really depends on where you're at. I just realized, Andy, were you asking, is there any mastermind group option for this? For this? I think that was your question. I just gave you a long-winded answer. Didn't even give you the true answer. The short answer is possibly. We're doing like the semi-monthly calls where you can get group coaching. That aspect, I am highly considering having some mastermind group options as well. I had a men's mastermind group a few years ago. We had, I think, 10 or 11 people, and considering doing something similar to this. It's not available yet, but something I'm definitely considering. Walter, is there a monthly plan or one-time payment? As of right now, it is a one-time payment. If that is an issue, I am definitely open to looking at offering some sort of payment plan for the $497 option. And if you want, I'm actually going to put my email in the chat and shoot me an email and let me know. Yeah, Darshaka. I hope I pronounced your name right. I remember you. Good. Well done. Thank you. Boom. Okay. Hey, so also too, thank you. Always wanted to learn. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I love it, right? It's so funny because I'm 45 years old now, and having 4 kids where I'm trying to help one of my kids with geometry homework, not every night, but ever so often. I just don't have the brain cells that I used to. I get tired easily, or more easily than I did before. But what hasn't changed, I'm still excited to grow. I'm still excited to learn new things. And it's so fun to see that transformation when I can actually identify, ooh, wow, that actually worked, or that actually is cool. It's been a lot of fun. For those that are still on, and if you are for those that are like on that maybe fence, if you're like a hard no, once again, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thank you for your support over the years. For those that still aren't sure yet, and maybe you could benefit just hearing a little bit more and you want some one-on-one time, I've made my calendar available. This is my Calendly calendar, which basically allows you to book a 15-minute, call it a strategy call, strategy session, and just to identify where you're at in your life, where you're stuck, and what the next step might be. Is it this program or is it something else? If that is something that you think you could benefit from, once again, no hard sell. I'm not going to hard sell anybody. I only want people in here that want to be here. That's, and if you don't know if that's you yet, that's great. You know, like keep watching the channel because eventually maybe there'll be that one day where you realize that was kind of like me, what the mentor that I had at my previous investment firm, he had mentioned to me a few times how he had hired a business coach. And if I recall correctly, he had hired 2 business coaches over like, I think he'd been in the business like 7 years, if I recall. And when he told me that, like, it didn't really make sense to me because I'm like, you hired a what? A business coach? Because, you know, I'm 24, 25 years old. Like I kind of got the idea of hiring like a fitness coach. Like that made sense to me, but it didn't make sense to hiring a business coach. So once again, he told me that. And I was at that stage in my life where I didn't need it. I definitely didn't need it because I'm like, that just sounds stupid. Fast forward several years later, whenever I got to this point where I was considering signing up for this coaching program, I called him and I'm like, hey, do you remember when you told me you had hired these business coaches? Can you tell me why you did it? And what I heard is what exactly I needed to hear. And that's what prompted me to sign up for the business coaching program, because he was at this stage where, very similar, had achieved success, had all the right things, but felt like he was missing clarity on what to do next and what the right things were, and just wanted to feel confident in what he was doing. So that's why he hired business coaches. And that's what ultimately led to me signing up for that coaching program. Carol Greenlee, good to see you on here. Is this for business owners or would it be helpful for someone wanting to move towards entrepreneurship? This is definitely not just for business owners. I think it's for people that, if you're the type of person that if you read self-improvement books, if you like to set goals, I used to have a vision board. My youngest son ruined it. I never redid it. I'm not really into them. It was a fun exercise, but if you are someone that has big visions, that want to achieve success and want to continue to grow and better yourself, to me, like that's what this is for. That's who this is for. Is it more helpful that you're a business owner? No. You know, I think there's growth in your job. There's growth in, family life. Like one of the goals that I had like for this quarter, like I'm currently doing 75 hard, which, and for those that don't know, it's not so much a workout program, but look it up yourself. It has nothing to do with business, right? It's all about being better as a person. You know, it's making me more healthy, being more intentional with my time, with what I eat, when I exercise, how I exercise, which then helps me plan out my day more because I've got to get these 2 workouts in every single day. So that's the type of person, you know, if you're training for a marathon or a half marathon or an adventure race or a bodybuilding show, which I think you could relate to. If that's how you're wired, then that's where this could benefit you. Hopefully that answered your question. How is this different from Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner? I know Michael Hyatt has his planner. I know that Michael Hyatt had I think he changed the name, but for several years it was called The Best Year Ever. gosh, I took the course, I had the course, I completely forgot what it was about, or I forgot how it was structured. I'm sure that there is some overlap, but I don't recall, and you might be able to correct me. I think he does like the 90-day goals. Ultimately, what this program is, or this course is that taking everything I've learned from Strategic Coach, Michael Hyatt, also included in there. I signed up for Todd Herman had his course, I think 90-day year, I believe. Signed up for that. There's also another book. Don't have it here. 12-week year or something, I forget. So it's basically for me, like looking at all of these and combining them in a way that helped me achieve success. And there's others out there. I think if Michael Hyatt has a similar program, I mean, I'm sure it's great. And Michael he's been doing this for a lot longer than I have. So I know he has the planner. Like I had the planner, and for the way that my brain was wired, it just didn't work for me. Doesn't mean it won't work for you. It just didn't work for me. But it's a great product. Ernest, thank you. Have your wife listen to it later on. I really appreciate that. So glad I got done with the echo. Awesome. Hey, y'all. So once again, I'm going to post this in here. If the little voice in you is saying maybe, if you have the maybe voice, schedule a call. I'll answer your questions. I'll be straight up. If it's a good fit, great. If not, maybe some other time, or maybe you'll find something else that is a good fit. Either way, want to continue to grow, want to continue to better yourself, and just be confident, have clarity in what you're doing. Waking up each and every day where it feels like you got your Superman cape on. It's a fun place to be. It is a fun place to be. And one of the reasons why I'm excited to be here and share what I'm sharing with you all. So I think with that, it's been a long time. Yeah, it has been a long time, man. But I'm around, I'm available. Hit me up in the comments. I've left my email address. You've got access to my calendar. If you want to book a call, book a time, please do it. Happy to chat with you, see where you're at in your life. I guess I'll sign off like I always do. This is Jeff Rose reminding you that it's your money, it's your life, and only you can make it awesome. Until next time, peace.